I shouldn't be telling you this. Not because I'm scared of getting sued, or blacklisted, or hunted down by Netflix's legal department. Though, let's be real, that's a possibility. No, I shouldn't be telling you this because if you stick with me long enough, if you hear every detail of what I saw, there's a chance you'll see it too. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You carry it with you, like a stain on your mind that never washes out. It started with a file. A single, corrupted-looking video file sitting on an old external drive I picked up from a flea market. It had no label, no folder name, just a string of numbers and letters like a digital fingerprint. When I clicked it open, the screen went black for a full minute. I thought it was broken until the static started. Not the crisp, clean streaming static you sometimes get when your Wi-Fi hiccups. No, this was VHS static, thick and grainy, almost dusty, like it had been pulled out of a time it didn't belong to. Then the picture formed. I recognized it instantly. The Addams Family mansion, but wrong. Too sharp in some places, too blurred in others. The colors looked drained, as if the life had been sucked out of the set. The camera didn't move the way Netflix cameras move either. Instead of the polished, cinematic pans, it was shaky, handheld, almost voyeuristic. And there she was, Wednesday Addams. At first glance, she looked normal, or at least as normal as Wednesday can look. The dark uniform, the braided hair, the deadpan stare. She sat at a desk in what looked like her Nevermore dorm room. But the lighting was off. Too dim, as if the lamps were working against her instead of for her. Her face flickered every few seconds, almost imperceptibly, as though the video couldn't quite decide what version of her it wanted to show. The audio kicked in next, muffled at first, like it was bleeding through waterlogged speakers. I leaned closer to catch it, straining to hear, but the words were warped, stretched, and folded in on themselves. It wasn't dialogue so much as distorted sound pretending to be dialogue. I thought maybe it was a bad rip, some intern's failed attempt at piracy. But then Wednesday moved. Not the smooth, deliberate movements I'd seen in the show. This was jerky, puppet-like, as if someone was pulling strings just out of frame. Her head snapped toward the camera. Too fast, too sudden. For a second, I thought she was staring at me. Through the file, through the screen, right into me. My chest tightened. My first instinct was to close the laptop, but I couldn't. Because she spoke. The static cut down to a whisper, and the voice came through clear, sharp, and so wrong. It wasn't Jenna Ortega's voice, not exactly. It was deeper, heavier, echoing as though it came from a tunnel carved straight into my skull. And the words she said, they weren't part of any script Netflix ever wanted you to hear. She leaned in, eyes wide and unblinking, lips stretching into a smile that didn't belong on her face. Then she said, "You shouldn't be watching this." And I swear to you, in that moment, I felt like she was right. But I kept watching. People always assume I went looking for this. Like I was some obsessive fan, digging through Reddit threads, scraping torrent sites for hidden gems, desperate for a taste of forbidden Wednesday lore. But the truth is, I wasn't searching for anything. It found me. It started with a box of junk. There's this flea market a couple of towns over, half antiques, half trash, and one-quarter conspiracy theorists selling VHS tapes of government experiments. I go there sometimes to pick through old tech, mostly because I like rescuing ancient machines and seeing what secrets they still hold. That's where I spotted it, a beat-up external hard drive buried under a pile of cracked DVDs. The guy running the stall barely looked at me when I asked how much. He shrugged and said, $5, no refunds. When I got home, I almost forgot about it. The drive was dusty, the casing cracked. I wasn't even sure it would spin up, but when I plugged it in, the little light flickered alive, like it hadn't been touched in years. Most of the files were corrupted beyond repair, half names, missing extensions, folders that wouldn't open. Except one. It was just a string of numbers and letters. No title, no metadata, nothing. A digital ghost. My gut told me to ignore it. But when has anyone ever listened to their gut in stories like this? I opened it. At first, I thought it was some fan-made edit. A weird, unfinished version of a Wednesday episode. But something about it felt too real, too raw. The sound of a microphone being adjusted before the scene started. The way the camera wobbled like someone was holding it instead of mounting it. And the silence, long, dragging silences between the lines that felt like the actors were waiting for someone to say cut. Only no one ever did. I told myself it had to be a leak. Netflix has had leaks before, unfinished episodes, concept art, test screenings. But usually, those files have markers, watermarks, timestamps, little identifiers proving they're legit. This file didn't. It was stripped clean, like it had never gone through any official channel at all. The longer I watched, the harder it was to shake the feeling that it wasn't meant for me, or for anyone, for that matter. Like it slipped out of some place it was never supposed to exist. I know how this sounds. I know I sound like one of those YouTube weirdos ranting about the dark side of children's cartoons, or claiming they saw Mickey Mouse hanging himself in a lost Disney short. But I'm not them. I wasn't trying to make content. I wasn't looking for creepypasta points. I was just a guy who found the wrong file at the wrong time. And if you think I'm exaggerating, if you're rolling your eyes right now, telling yourself it's just a story, then you haven't heard what I saw in that scene. Trust me, Netflix didn't bury it because of copyright. They buried it because once you watch it, it doesn't leave you. The first time I watched it all the way through, I thought maybe my laptop was breaking down. The colors bled like old Polaroids left in the sun. The blacks weren't black, but oily, shifting, as if something darker lurked beneath the pixels. It opened like a normal Wednesday episode, or close enough to trick me for a minute. Wednesday sat at her desk in the Nevermore dorm room, quill in hand, scribbling in her journal. Her expression was flat, amused in that acidic way fans love. If I turned it off right there, I might have slept that night. But the longer I stared, the more I noticed the seams. The shadows in the room moved on their own, stretching toward her desk and then recoiling like they were alive. The camera angle never changed. It just lingered dead on, like someone had hidden a camcorder in the wall. Her lips moved, and words spilled out, but they weren't words I recognized. Not Spanish, not Latin, not anything I could Google later. It sounded ancient, consonants scraping, vowels warped like someone twisting a voice through broken speakers. For a split second, her journal caught the light, and I could swear the page wasn't blank. It was covered in symbols, circles, spirals, jagged lines that looked too sharp to have been written by a pen. When I paused the video and zoomed in, the screen glitched, blurring the marks into nothing but static. I tried 3 times. Same result. Then Enid entered. At first, I thought maybe this was just an outtake, one of those darker jokes that got cut for being too grim. Enid's usually bubbly, her movements quick, her voice high and warm. But here, she stepped into the frame like she was underwater, slow, deliberate. Her eyes didn't shine. They looked glassy, almost vacant, like someone had painted them on. W. Wednesday, she said, her voice distorted, doubled, as if another voice was speaking in tandem. Wednesday didn't look up. She just kept writing, faster and faster, the scratching sound growing loud enough to drown out Enid's words. Then her hand stopped. She dropped the quill. The camera zoomed, but not like a professional cut, more like the lens had been yanked forward by invisible hands. Her face filled the screen. I wish I could tell you she was just acting, that it was makeup, prosthetics, CGI. But her face twitched, glitching between frames. 1 second her eyes were her own, dark and piercing. The next, they were too wide, too black, swallowing the whites whole. Her smile cracked unnaturally wide, splitting skin at the corners like paper tearing. And then she spoke. Not to Enid. To me. "I can see you," she whispered. I froze. My hand hovered over the trackpad, ready to slam the window shut. But the video didn't stop. The progress bar kept crawling. Enid was trembling in the background, whispering something I couldn't make out. And Wednesday, whatever she was, kept leaning closer, until her forehead nearly brushed the lens. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "This isn't for you." The room behind her began to melt, colors dripping down the walls like wet paint. Enid's form dissolved into static until she was gone, leaving Wednesday alone in the void. The sound cut out, and for 5 full seconds, it was just silence, her face filling the screen, her unblinking eyes boring into mine. Then came the scream. Not hers. Mine. Or rather, it sounded like mine. I swear on everything. The scream that burst out of my speakers was my voice, twisted, dragged through metal, echoing back at me like it had been stolen from some moment I hadn't lived yet. When the sound died, the scene flickered. Wednesday was back at her desk, journal closed, as if nothing had happened. She turned the page, dipped the quill again, and muttered one final line. This time in perfect, clear English. "Don't tell them you saw this." And then the screen went black. I sat there, my reflection staring back at me in the dead monitor, trying to convince myself it was some elaborate fan hoax. But deep down I knew. This wasn't fan-made. This wasn't scripted. This was something else entirely. And I had just watched what no one was ever meant to see. After that night, nothing felt the same. I told myself it was just a video file. Just pixels on a screen, no different than 100 other clips floating around the internet. But deep down, I knew I'd brought something through when I pressed play, like opening a door I didn't realize was locked for a reason. The first change was the whispers. At first, I thought it was tinnitus, a faint ringing that curled in my ears whenever the room went silent. But then the ringing shaped itself into words. Words I couldn't quite catch, spoken in that same warped, guttural cadence Wednesday had used when she wasn't speaking English. At night, when the house was still, I'd hear them clearest, like someone was standing just behind my head, breathing syllables directly into the soft spot of my skull. Then came the glitches. My phone lit up at 3:17 a.m. with a notification. New Wednesday scene available. Watch now. But when I tapped it, nothing opened. Just a black screen and the faintest outline of a braid swaying back and forth. My laptop refused to play anything on Netflix without buffering into static first, the kind I'd seen in the file. Even YouTube thumbnails started shifting. For a split second, I'd catch Wednesday's face where it shouldn't be. In cooking videos, in news reports, smiling wide in the corner of a gaming vlog before snapping back to normal. I stopped sleeping. How could I, when every time I closed my eyes I was back in that room? I'd dream of her desk, her journal, the quill scratching symbols that bled off the page and onto the walls of my mind. Sometimes she'd look up in the dream and say my name. Not, "Hey, you," or "viewer." My actual name. That was the moment I realized she wasn't just a character anymore. And maybe I wasn't just an audience member. One night, I tried deleting the file. Simple fix, right? Highlight, right-click, delete. But the moment I pressed confirm, the screen froze. Not a crash. No, the cursor still moved. But the trash bin refused to open, and the file sat stubbornly in place. The name flickering between random characters and the words, "Keep watching." The whispers got louder after that. My own reflection in the screen started lagging a half-second behind me, like it wasn't just reflecting anymore, but watching back. When I finally forced myself to shut the laptop, I saw my reflection in the black glass. Except the reflection didn't shut its eyes when I did. I told myself I was losing it. Stress, paranoia, sleep deprivation. It had to be. But then, one night, I caught something I couldn't explain. I was scrolling through Netflix, half asleep, when a new thumbnail appeared. Not a show, not a movie, just a black square with the title, The Scene. No description, no cast list, no runtime. I didn't click it. God knows I wanted to, but something in me screamed that if I pressed play, it wouldn't be just my devices glitching anymore. It would be me, my life, my body, my mind. And yet, every time I log in, the thumbnail is still there, waiting. It's like the file doesn't live on my laptop anymore. It lives everywhere. I wasn't planning to tell anyone. Honestly, I thought keeping my mouth shut would keep me safe, that maybe if I ignored it long enough, the whispers would fade, the glitches would stop, and I could convince myself it was all just stress poisoning my brain. But then I got the email. It landed in my inbox at 2:46 a.m., no subject line, no sender I recognized. The address looked scrambled, like someone had mashed their face into the keyboard. Normally, I'd have deleted it without opening, but the preview line froze me. "You've seen her, haven't you?" My heart kicked against my ribs as I clicked it open. The message was short. No greeting, no sign-off. Just a single paragraph written like a confession scrawled on a bathroom wall. "If you've watched the Wednesday scene, stop now. It isn't ours. It wasn't filmed. We didn't make it. It appeared in post-production during editing. One day it wasn't there, and the next it was. Everyone who's tried to cut it out changed. Some disappeared. Some couldn't stop watching. Some, well, let's just say their stories didn't end with credits. Delete it. Forget it. Before she notices you." That was it. No name, no proof. Just a warning. I wanted to dismiss it as a prank. God knows the internet breeds trolls who live for this kind of thing. But the more I thought about it, the more it lined up. The strange camera work, the lack of metadata, the way it didn't feel like an outtake, but something stitched into the show from elsewhere. I read the email over and over, the words etching themselves into my mind. It wasn't filmed. It appeared. What does that even mean? A video doesn't just appear out of nowhere. Someone has to write it, shoot it, edit it. But the idea that it simply manifested, that chilled me more than anything I'd seen on the screen. A second email arrived 30 minutes later. Same scrambled address. This time, just 2 words. "She knows." That was when my laptop fan roared to life on its own, the screen flickering awake even though I hadn't touched it. The file, the one I'd tried to delete, was open again, sitting there, waiting. I didn't press play. I couldn't. But I swear, for half a second, the frozen frame on the screen shifted. Wednesday's head tilted, just slightly, as if acknowledging me. As if confirming the email wasn't just a warning. It was a countdown. I thought I'd done everything right. I didn't open the file again. I muted my laptop. I even shoved it into the back of my closet, like burying it under winter coats would smother whatever was bleeding out of it. But Wednesday didn't need the file anymore. The first time it happened, I was half asleep, phone glowing faintly beside me on the nightstand. A voice drifted through the speaker, low and deliberate. At first, I thought it was a podcast auto-playing, but the words froze me mid-breath. "Why did you stop watching?" My throat went dry. I picked up the phone. The screen was black. No apps open, no audio player running. But the voice continued, steady, clear, unmistakably hers. "You left me unfinished," she said. I dropped the phone. It landed face down on the carpet, but the voice didn't stop. That was the beginning of our conversations. The second time, I was more awake. My laptop powered itself on in the middle of the night. The cursor slid across the screen like invisible hands were controlling it. The file opened. The scene didn't play normally this time. It froze on her face, eyes locked forward, lips unmoving. But I heard her anyway. "Me? What do you want from me?" Her, "Attention. You watched. Now you're mine." Me, "This isn't real. You're not real." Her, "Aren't I?" Her voice scratched through the speakers like it was being dragged from the bottom of a well. Yet somehow, it still carried something sharp, alive, almost amused. She told me things I never said aloud, about my childhood, about the places I used to hide when my parents fought, about the scar on my wrist that nobody ever noticed. I didn't tell her. She just knew. And the more I answered, the more she responded. Like a call-and response ritual I didn't remember agreeing to. The fourth night was the worst. The screen was blank, but the dialogue came anyway. "Me, why me?" Her, "Because you looked. They all look. But you didn't turn away." Me, "There has to be others. People who saw it before me." Her, "Yes." They stopped replying. Her laugh was jagged, like glass breaking inside my ears. I couldn't take it anymore. I shouted into the empty room, voice cracking. "What do you want me to do?" The silence that followed was heavier than her words. My chest tightened, waiting terrified she wouldn't answer this time. Then, finally, keep watching. After that, the conversations bled into the day. I'd be at work, and a notification would pop up. New message from Wednesday. I'd open it and find nothing but a single line of text looping across the screen. Look behind you. I never turned, but the reflection in my monitor would lag, her silhouette hovering just over my shoulder before snapping back to mine. I don't know if you'll believe me when I say this, but it wasn't all terror. Some nights, I caught myself waiting for her voice, craving it. Like part of me wanted to be claimed, to belong to something bigger than myself, even if that something was stitched from static and shadows. She was cruel, yes, but she was also funny, sharp, almost charming in her cynicism. There were moments she sounded more alive than most people I've met. And that's when I realized the real danger. It wasn't that she wanted me dead. It was that she wanted me alive. Alive, but listening. Alive, but hers. And little by little, I was starting to want that too. I started keeping notes. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. When the line between dream and memory blurs, you cling to paper like it's proof you still exist. At first, the entries looked like a madman's scrawl, timestamps of when she spoke, words she used, phrases that echoed. But soon, patterns emerged. She always contacted me at 3:17 a.m. sharp. She repeated certain numbers, 8, 13, 42. And she never once called herself Wednesday. She called herself the missing frame. It didn't make sense until I began digging through online forums, the kind buried 3 pages deep in Google, places where usernames are just strings of numbers and avatars are static skulls. People whispered about lost media in ways that felt uncomfortably familiar. They described footage that was never supposed to air, episodes that slipped out like splinters, infecting anyone who watched. And some of them, people I'd never met, wrote about voices too. Voices that carried through speakers long after the video ended. The worst part? They described her lines exactly, word for word. I wasn't special. I wasn't chosen. I was part of something bigger. The more I read, the more it spiraled into conspiracy. Posts disappeared minutes after I bookmarked them. Users who tried to explain too much had their accounts deleted, their history scrubbed. A few left desperate warnings before vanishing. Don't let her finish the dialogue. Don't complete the script. That word again. Script. Like this wasn't just a recording. Like I was playing a role I didn't understand. I dug deeper, searching through torrent archives, Discord leaks, even old VHS tape trading boards. Every breadcrumb led to dead ends, except for one chilling overlap. Netflix employees, former editors, freelance post-production workers, anonymous whistleblowers. They all hinted the same thing. Scenes were cut, not for pacing, not for tone, but because they wouldn't stay edited. I remember staring at one message, hands shaking. It was just a sentence, buried in a sea of deleted posts. The footage rewrites itself. That's when the paranoia set in. Every time my phone buzzed, I was sure it wasn't a text from a friend, but her. Every commercial cut on YouTube, every static flicker on TV. I caught myself freezing, terrified she'd bleed through. And yet, I kept going. I couldn't stop. The pattern wasn't just in my notes anymore. It was in my head. Her words rearranged my thoughts like puzzle pieces snapping into place. 13, 8, 42. A countdown, maybe. Or coordinates. Or a script I hadn't finished performing. I think that's why I'm telling you this now. Because maybe if you notice the patterns too, they'll loosen their grip on me. Or maybe that's exactly what she wants. To spread, to infect, to multiply like code across a corrupted network. And if that's true, then congratulations. You're part of the conspiracy now. I stopped sleeping. Not because I wanted to, but because sleep meant slipping into her voice, into that endless dialogue I couldn't control. Nights stretched into a blur of coffee cups and twitching eyelids. Every creak of my apartment a threat. I thought maybe if I stayed awake long enough, I'd break the cycle. Instead, I broke myself. The paranoia wasn't a shadow anymore. It was my reflection. Every mirror felt delayed, like the me inside was a half-second slower, waiting for the perfect moment to do something I wouldn't. I'd shave and catch a smirk that didn't belong to me. I'd wash my hands and see lips moving when mine were still. I tried smashing one of them, the bathroom mirror. Glass rained across the tile, but in those fractured shards, her face lingered. Not Wednesday's actress. Not Jenna Ortega. Her. The one behind the scene. The one calling herself the missing frame. And she was smiling. The real collapse came at work. I was in a meeting, pretending to listen while my manager droned about deadlines. My laptop sat closed on the conference table. Still, I felt it vibrating, like a heartbeat under the aluminum shell. When I cracked it open, every screen in the room flickered. The projector, the wall monitor, even my coworkers' phones. They all pulsed with static, then froze on a single frame. Her eyes. Wide, unblinking, a stare that knew me. The audio burst from the speakers, not a scream, but a whisper magnified to thunder. Finish. The script. I remember the way everyone looked at me. Some confused, some horrified. My boss asked if I was running a prank. No one else heard the words. Just me. That's when I realized. She wasn't bleeding through technology anymore. She was bleeding through me. That night, I barricaded the apartment door with furniture. I unplugged everything. TV, router, even the fridge, like killing the hum would starve her. But when the lights died, the whispers didn't. They came from the walls, from the cracks in the ceiling, from the hollow spaces between my ribs. Her, you're wasting time. Me, leave me alone. Her, you begged me to stay. Me, no, I didn't. Her, yes, you did. Every time you opened the file. Every time you leaned closer instead of looking away. She wasn't wrong. That's what stung the most. By the fourth night without sleep, I snapped. My hands shook so badly I could barely type, but I reopened the cursed file. If she wanted me to finish the scene, fine. I'd watch it to the end, no matter what it did. The video sputtered, glitched, then shifted into something new. Not the woods, not the school, a room, my room. The grainy footage showed me, hunched over the desk, watching the screen. And behind me, in the flickering glow, a silhouette leaned closer with every skipped frame. My heart slammed. I spun in my chair. No one was there. But in the footage, the silhouette smiled. And this time, it raised a hand, pressing one finger to its lips. Shoo, that was the moment I broke. Because I realized the truth. I wasn't just watching her anymore. She was watching me. And she'd been recording the whole time. I told myself this would be the last time. The last night. The last frame. If I finished it, maybe it would stop. Maybe she would let me go. That's how all curses end, right? You endure the nightmare until the credits roll. I pulled the laptop out from under the coats in my closet, dust clinging to its lid like ash. My hands trembled as I set it down, but there was no hesitation anymore. Fear had calcified into something sharper, desperation. The file opened on its own, as though it had been waiting. The title card flickered once, twice, then dissolved into the forest scene. But it wasn't the same. The camera wasn't fixed in the trees anymore. It followed her, Wednesday, through the woods, each step too fluid, too real. Her hair shifted in the breeze. Her boots pressed the earth with weight. For the first time, it felt less like footage and more like a live feed. She turned, slowly, as if sensing me watching. And she smiled. I told myself it was acting, that it was all some elaborate ARG, a trick designed to pull me deeper. But then she spoke, and her lips matched the words I'd been hearing in my sleep for weeks. You're late. My breath caught. The trees around her blurred, twisting like oil on water. She raised her hand, and the camera followed, tilting upward. I expected to see the moon, but instead the lens revealed a screen. A giant, glowing screen hanging in the sky, displaying me. Me at my desk. Me staring at her. She was watching me watch her, and the loop closed tight around my throat. The scene shifted again. A room. My room. Not grainy this time. High definition. Too sharp. Every detail perfect, down to the crack in my wall. The mug of cold coffee. the scratches on my desk. And sitting in the chair, me. Not lagging, not glitching. Just me. Watching. But the reflection me leaned forward, closer to the camera, while I sat frozen in place. His eyes locked on mine. And for the first time in this entire nightmare, I understood what it meant to look at something that wasn't just recorded, but alive. Finish it, the other me whispered. The video began to fast forward on its own. The static built until the speakers roared like a storm, each frame skipping ahead, yet still somehow unfolding in perfect clarity. The forest, the classroom, the mirror, the shadows, scenes I had never watched before but had lived through, moments stolen from my own life, stitched into the real. It was my script, my memories, my unraveling. And then, black. The screen went dark. I waited. My heart slammed so hard it hurt. Sweat slid down my back. For a moment, I thought maybe that was it. Maybe the nightmare had finally burned itself out. Then the screen lit again. One final frame. Not the woods. Not Wednesday. Not me. But you. Whoever's reading this. Watching this. Listening right now. Your face flickered across my laptop. Faint and distorted like you were already part of the recording. I don't know how. I don't know why. But I saw you. And she whispered through the speakers. So softly it barely scraped the edge of hearing. Now it's their turn. I slammed the laptop shut. I threw it across the room. But the glow didn't stop. Even closed, the light bled through the cracks, humming like a heartbeat in the dark. The final viewing wasn't mine. It was yours. I don't know why I'm still typing. Maybe because if I keep it locked inside my head, she wins. Maybe because the only way to dull the echo of her voice is to trap it here, in words. But I need you to understand something. This isn't a story. It's a contagion. And I'm about to make it worse. I should have destroyed the laptop. I tried once. I took it to the alley behind my building and smashed it against the concrete until the screen bled glass. I thought it was over. But when I came back upstairs, it was already waiting on my desk, whole, glowing, humming softly like it had never left. And the file? It wasn't a file anymore. It was everywhere. On my phone, on my TV. Even my smart fridge lit up with her frozen smile. There's no deleting it. No uninstall. No escape. That's when I realized what she meant. Finish the script. It didn't mean watching. It meant sharing, spreading, uploading. I fought it. God, I fought it. Days without sleep, hands trembling on the keyboard, whispering to myself that I wasn't her puppet. But the truth is, I already was. Every keystroke, every note, every word I've written for you is part of it. You think you're just hearing my account, some lost media creepypasta narrated by a stranger in the dark. But look closer. Haven't you noticed? The rhythm of the words, the pauses, the way certain lines feel less like narration and more like commands. She isn't in the video anymore. She's in the telling. And now, she's in you. So here it is. The final scene. The upload. By the time you finish this sentence, it's already done. My words are on your screen. Her voice is in your head. The script is complete. You can close the tab. Pretend it's over. But don't be surprised when your phone buzzes at 3:17 a.m. Don't panic when you hear her whisper from the speaker, asking the same question she asked me. Why did you stop watching? Because the truth is, you haven't. Not really. And now, neither will they. If you're smart, you'll walk away. Delete this. Forget you ever found me. But if you're curious, if you can't stand not knowing, then lean closer. Play it again. Share it. Spread it. That's how she survives. And maybe, that's how you will too. Because whether you believe me or not, whether you want her or not, she already knows your name. And she's already smiling.